Good afternoon again to each and every one of you. This is Dominic Oliva with another one of your YouTube video vlogs. Yes, I'm in my kitchen as you've gathered. I have all my snacks and stuff in the background. I decided to go to a different space to do this video, and I am going to ask that you will bear with me. This particular video is going to be addressing the 2021 graduates. Yes, as most of you know, it's graduation month, and we start to see that middle, elementary, and high school kids have now graduated. So this particular video is going to be addressing the students that just graduated and are going on to the next level. So for those of you watching this, if you do not have the tolerance and the patience for this video, I'm going to warn you guys, this is going to take me some time. It's going to take me a little bit, hopefully not too much, but I just need to get some things out of the way. So if you do not have the patience and the attention span, I ask that you would kindly go on to the next video, as this particular video is going to be again addressing the high school graduates. As you've gathered, I have my yearbook stacked in front of me, and there's a reason why I'm doing this particular video. So most of you may have gathered, I've lived in this hometown. I lived in Kingston, upstate New York, Kingston. I've been here for nearly 20 years. I actually went to high school here. As you see here, I have all of my yearbooks. These are different yearbooks, they're different colors, and yes, I collected these yearbooks. So I'm going to do this video and I'm going to ask that you will bear with me. So I've actually gotten into the point in my life where I'm all for full transparency in this video, and you can take it at my expense. I'm just going to share with you some of my knowledge of what I've gathered so far as a young man with minimum experience, and to those that are getting ready to transition onto adulthood. So I'm going to digress for a moment and I will share this. So a lot of times, you know, I'm usually home, not doing pretty much besides scrolling and going through the web. I do a lot of web browsing on the internet, and I watch a lot of vlogs. I go on YouTube a lot, and I happen to come across this page. And one of my younger friends actually shared this with me. I've been spending my time with my close friends. We went out, we went traveling, we went sightseeing, and one of my youngest friends, he actually shared this video, and I've been watching it. He has a YouTube page. It's called Infinitive Waters, and basically going off the lines of not caring about everyone else's opinions, and basically not giving too much of attention of what people think of you. But there is another YouTube page that I came across, and I quite recently subscribed to his channel. Now, if you're watching this again, this is actually an amateur style video. This is not a professional page, and I do not have any expensive equipment. I'm just making use of the technology that I have been given with this camera on the laptop and my lavalier microphone that you're hearing me speak from. But going off, I recently subscribed to his channel. His name is Cole Hastings. What I've gathered so far from this individual, he's a relatively young man. I want to say he's in his early 20s, and he quite recently made a YouTube video, and I thought that was pretty insightful. And I didn't watch the entire video. I watched the first 8 minutes of it. And I just want to share this with you because so far what I've gathered from watching this video, I thought it was very insightful, and I'm going to share this with you guys. So this particular story talks about the young man who actually went to college to pursue his undergrad studies, and I believe it was computer graphics science. He went to major, but he actually transitioned from both colleges. He goes to share his story, and I think it's important to note that a lot of us young people have been conditioned. In my previous videos, you know, this is going to sound pretty cliche, and you may have heard this before, but I didn't really go too much in depth into it. But what I think gets pushed a lot is that push to go to college after you get out of high school, you know, furthering your education. And so what happens is people go to college, these young people go to college, but then they're not too decided on what they want to major in. So a lot of the times, the experiences of going out and living in the dorms and getting out to party, you know, exploring their young adulthood. So listening to Cole and telling his insight and, you know, why he went to college, but, you know, also inquiring his 4-year degree and not really using it, but the benefits of going into college, and I will share them very briefly. But if I'm going to digress for a moment, just to digress, not to make this too personal, but again, addressing to the 2021 high school graduates, this goes out to you. If you're living in Kingston and you're listening to this, understand this. I don't know a whole lot of you, and it's important to note that I don't talk to every person out here. I see everybody, but I've been more in tune to my close friends and my close relatives. I've been keeping intact with my circle, and this is something that I think you guys will learn later down the line. I don't connect with every single person because I know where everyone's loyalties lie, and it's just a matter of assessing and feeling out different energies. But if I'm going to digress for a moment, and I want you guys to understand this, so again, I ask that you will bear with me. I'm going to digress for a moment. So the reason why I'm making this video, on this day, 13 years ago, I went to Kingston High School, and I graduated Kingston High School. I went to Kingston High School. I graduated along with my twin brother and my graduating class. There was about maybe 800 students to start off, and out of those 800 students, my understanding was that 482 of those students graduated and went off to college or went up to pursue their other works of studies or work different jobs or even went off to the Navy. So everyone went about their own ways, and I will share this. Not to make it too personal, but I did go to school. You've heard me say this before. I did attend college. I went to the State University of New York at New Paltz. And during my time there, I didn't know everybody. I went with my twin brother and we got admitted under the EOP Educational Opportunity Program. That's what it stands for, because as a young person like me, you gather this much about me. I'm a young person with a developmental disability, and I have taken my SATs. My SAT scores were not high enough to get me into a very expensive college, but they were substantial to get me into a decent four-year school. It's 30 minutes from where I live. And so I got admitted under that program, and we took a wide variety of different classes. There were tons and tons of different students. Now, these are all students from different backgrounds, different ethnicities. You meet a lot of different people. There are even people from across the country that went to study abroad that came onto the New Paltz College campus. But most of the students primarily come from the city, and they come up here to pursue their undergrad studies. And I had a pretty interesting experience living in the dormitories for the past 4 years of me attending college. Now again, this all takes place in 2008, and for the first 2 years, I didn't know exactly what I wanted to study. My major was undecided. I was just taking different classes. I had to take a foreign language because it was required of me. My IEP requires that I take a foreign language, so I took Spanish classes. I took a Spanish class, because I would consider my family is usually Puerto Rican, but English has always been my fluent language, and so I barely passed my classes. I took a lot of different classes. I also took a critical thinking class, but I also did fall a little bit short. I didn't do too well because critical thinking is one of those things that I still struggle with. So yeah, these are pretty interesting. I took these classes. I took all the general educational classes, including my sciences, and then it wasn't until the fall of 2010 going into the spring of 2011 that I decided that I maybe wanted to major in communication and media studies. And I say communication and media studies because for a while now I was into the whole camera, and at one point I did want to be an anchor because as you hear me talk a lot, and I'm able to articulate myself now than I ever did before. And I'll go in a little bit in depth as to how I'm able to articulate myself. But one of the ideas was, in this particular field of study, you're working with a lot of technology. You're working with the camera, you're working with the sound, you're working with the audio, and you're meeting different people. But at the same point in time, I've taken classes in that field, but I didn't realize how challenging it was going to be. I thought it was just going to be like an easy 1, 2, 3, going down a line. And a lot of these classes are an hour or two. The classes do last at least about an hour or 2 hours. So you have a lot of these professors, they do lectures, and a lot of these classes, they weren't so much hands-on. I did get a little bit of hands-on, but I had to listen a lot to the professors, and it was pretty hard for me because my attention span, I don't have a long attention span. The most I'll go is for like maybe up to 15 and 30 minutes. Otherwise, I tend to zone out. So I did major in communication studies, like I said, because I wanted to get my hands on. I wanted to learn different functions. I wanted to be into the media at one point. I was singing, I was active in my church, I went to school, I joined the school choir. So I've been within the performing arts. So that was particularly why I wanted to go into that field of study. And so I've taken different classes my last 2 to 3 years, and then I graduate in the August of 2013 with a Bachelor of Arts degree. You know, but I had 2 classes that were left over, so I took online classes in order to finish up my studies. Now, where to go from here? As I said before, I graduated in 2013, so there comes the aftermath of graduating college. I didn't know exactly where I wanted to go, and ultimately, I left school with no money. I didn't really have much. So this is the trap, and this is the thing that I'm going to share with you guys, and it's one of those things that I wish I would have known then what I do now. But basically, I left school and I wind up working a wide variety of different jobs. You know, I went to school and then I graduated, and then I didn't really stick to my niche, mainly because of financial issues. I left with a not higher GPA. My GPA was a 2.73. So it wasn't substantial enough to get into grad school, and grad school costs a lot of money. So I went back home, I went back to the apartment, and you know, I worked a wide variety of different jobs. One of the first jobs that I worked out of college was data entry. As I mentioned before, I worked in an office setting, and I did this for a year. Decent pay, you know, they started me off with minimum wage, but I got paid decently. This was bi-weekly, and pretty much you're just sitting behind a computer. Granted, it's a boring job, but it still pays, and you're typing information into the computer. This is tax incentives. So you know how people go to file taxes, and they're 1040 and they're 1099? I was doing that within my first year. So I came into work, they said I was a very exceptional employee, so I did that for a year, typing tax incentives. I was more into data entry because I type generally anywhere from 50 to 60 words per minute. I have pretty good typing skills. I took a typing class in high school, so that's how I was able to sustain for a whole year until August of 2014. Now this is where things get real, because at that point, I'm 24 years old, right? And this is my first time that I'm getting laid off. Because as stated before, and I said this before, my first year getting off of data entry, they laid off 30 people. And I was one of those people. The office and the job site was already getting ready to close. So this was my very first layoff. And it put me at a very low place. I did not have a job. Thankfully, I had a place to live. But I wasn't very productive with my time. You know, I felt like I wasn't getting anywhere. And there it is. I'm getting ready to walk up the stage and obtain my diploma, because I graduated in August of 2013. But May was the actual graduation ceremony. For any of the students that graduated in August or December of 2013 gets to walk the May 2014 ceremony. So I went to do that, and I thought at that point it was very monumental. But at the same point in time, I didn't have a job. I had a place to live, but I wasn't very productive with my time. So scratch that, and then came April of 2015, where I worked my first restaurant job. I was a food worker, only come to find out that I was working a fast food job. So I worked that job. Never would I ever thought that I see myself working at a fast food job, but here it is. I am working a fast food job, and this was between 2015 and 2016. I worked at this place called Hardee's. You might have recognized it. It's in Lake Katrine, and don't get me wrong, I like the food. The food was very delicious. But it got to a point where I was a front-end worker and I would be delivering food up to guests because we had a sit-in and people were sitting in. It was almost like a restaurant, but I would go up and get their orders. I would deliver the trays up to the customers. And then for a while, they had me go back. So they had me behind the fryers. I was in charge of the fryers. You know, I worked behind the kitchen, cleaning and stacking up food. You know, they had all these different types of food. They had burger patties because it was a burger place. They had burger patties, onion rings, poppers, all the good stuff. And you know how it is when you work at a fast food job. You know, it gets pretty short-staffed and you're pretty much doing all of the grunt work. So they had me behind the fryers and we were pretty short-staffed and I didn't get a whole lot of help. So it felt like I was being pressured and it got me to a very dark place because I felt like I wasn't getting anywhere. I felt like I was being embarrassed. I felt like I was being pressured. I felt like I was underappreciated. The staff there, you know, with them being pretty, not hostile, but pretty much with their attitude, they just had a pretty negative attitude. They seemed pretty demanding. And I didn't like that job. I did this for a year and 4 months before I'm able to land my next job working retail, which I currently am working today. They have decent pay, and I was actually happy to get out of the fast food setting because it got to a point where I just couldn't take it. You know, the kind of disrespect from the staff and the workers at the time, you know, I felt like I wasn't really getting anywhere. I felt like I was underappreciated because here I am, a college graduate, working at a fast food job, and it gets pushed on me. I put all this constant pressure on myself to get further in life. But then, you know, in that same point in time, collecting student loan debt. At that point, I was paying back student loans. So between the years of 2014 and 2016 were a struggle with me because I kept questioning myself. It got me to a very downward spiral. I kept questioning my decisions. You know, I kept comparing myself to other people. It just got me at a pretty low place. So again, from the years of 2013 up until 2016, mid-2016, I'm paying back a portion of my student loans up until I get a letter from an organization or the student loan organization saying that, you know, because I am a young man with a developmental disability that has minimum challenges, so I'll say this, and I'm going to be as transparent as I possibly can because I'm all about transparency. As I mentioned in my previous video, I don't like to fake an image that I can't maintain. I want to be as real as I possibly can. So it might make people feel some type of way, but it's gotten to a point in my life again where I want to be transparent and I want to be open to people about these things because I want to let them know that they're not alone struggling in this battle, in this fight of life. So again, I digress. And basically, they put the letter that I got this from was from TDP. It's Total Permanent Disability because people that get disability are not required to pay back the student loans. So I got this letter in the mail and basically they put my student loans on hold for a while up until 2019. And this is where I will share the news. As of September of 2019, my student loans were forgiven. I no longer pay student loans. So because of those services that were granted to me, as someone like me, because I'm not the only person, but there's other people out here that might have challenges just like me and are struggling to keep up with their bills and their basic responsibilities and even things like this. Student loan debt is becoming a huge thing. So I had those services granted to me and I'm not paying any more student loans, which I am thankful for. But if I were to go back to school, those services might not be granted to me. So that's still up for question. Now again, you hear me talk a lot about my personal stuff, but this video again does go out to the high school graduates of 2021. I wanted to share that story because I want to let these young people out here know that whatever it is that you go through in life, know that you're not alone because there's other people out here, much like myself, that have been in your shoes. We struggle to figure out where we see ourselves in life. You know, it's the aftermath. You're now graduated from high school and you're probably thinking to yourself, where do you go from here? What do you do after high school? Where do I go to college? Where is it that I go to fulfill my studies? or further progress in life. And I want to share this experience because, again, it's one of those things that I wish I knew then what I do now. And I made this video previously a couple of months back, or actually a year or two ago, that wherever it is that you go and whatever it is that you do in life, make sure that you have an idea, or try to focus as much as you can to stick onto your goals, because once you leave these four walls, there's going to be all sorts of challenges. As the ones that I just described to you, you've gathered so far that I worked a wide variety of different jobs within the past couple of years. I've done many different things because I was undecided, and a part of me didn't really stick through it. And those things are okay. These are all flaws because we're all learning. Just because we get to a certain point in our life doesn't mean that we stop learning. These are all experiences. So in one of the videos that Cole had made in regards to the benefits or non-benefits of going into college, and I'm just going to go over to you because, again, I went to a four-year school. I graduated. I got my diploma. I did not use my diploma. I live in my confined space. As you've gathered, you see all of this. And granted, you know, this is not the greatest space, but at least I have a roof over my head. I have a decent paying job, and granted, I am still a work in progress. But one of the things that Cole mentioned in the video, and the benefits of going into college, if you do decide to go to college with a useless degree, I mean, it is still beneficial, but just going off from my personal experience, one of the benefits from me going into college, because even though I didn't get to use my diploma or my degree in the major that I thought I wanted to go into, the benefit of going into a four-year school is that you get away from home, one. Two, you get to socialize, because one of the things, as I mentioned again, is that, you know, as a person like me, I tend to be very introverted, and I was never really that social growing up. I've always stood to myself. I sat alone in the cafeteria, so you meet all these different people that are extroverts and introverts, and, you know, a lot of people are not very social. A lot of people tend to be shy. But one of the benefits of going into a four-year school and living in the dormitories is that it expands your social skills. One. Two, I'm able to articulate myself better than I did a couple of years ago. In the past video vlogs that you hear me speak, I had a hard time keeping up with my speech patterns, and I had to take pauses in between. I still take pauses in between when I record videos, but I can articulate myself. One of the benefits of going into college and taking a page out of the professor's book is to be able to articulate and express words, to be more expressive now than I was before. And three, having improved your social skills. You know, in meeting different people, it helps expand your social skills so that when you do go out into the world, you have these things with you. You take these social skills, and on top of that, as I mentioned before, I went into editing and video making. So my part of the communication and media studies is acquiring video and editing skills, which I also did take with me, which is why I'm able to make these videos. And I don't do these videos for money. I do these out of my free will. So this is still amateur stuff, and I'm still practicing, because maybe one day at some point down the line, maybe I want to expand myself and maybe get into the monetization and, you know, making more video vlogs. But I'm currently scrambling things around. I'm currently readjusting my life. So I just wanted to share that experience. Again, for me personally, I still look at me graduating with a bachelor's degree as still an achievement, because how many people living with Asperger's syndrome do we see, or people that have developmental disabilities, how many of them leave out with a college degree? It's a very rare occasion that you have folks like myself leaving with a college degree, because at one point I never thought that I would get this far in my life, to be able to get through a four-year school in of itself. They taught a lot of difficult classes, and they use a lot of big words, and reading is one of those things, because again, I don't have a pretty long attention span, so they had all these different college textbooks and all these lists of challenges. You know, they have groups and organizations, and time management is one of those things that I did struggle with. But again, nonetheless, I did persevere. And yeah, I may not be where I want to be, but I'm still a work in progress. And I will share this with you, to those that are 18 and graduated and are now living on your own to pursue or further your education, or out living in the real world, know that life does not end here. I'm going to say this because it's been brought to my attention that a lot of us are living in a society where, you know, we have all these different expectations, and you hear this saying a lot about the timeline bullies. It doesn't matter how old you are. What matters is what you do from here on in. So don't worry about not having your whole life together by 25 or 30 years old. I'm 31 years old, and I'm still not quite where I need to be, but I'm still a work in progress. Learning doesn't stop at 31 years old, but you still have your whole life ahead of you. There's different things to still learn. You know, take it day by day. Whatever it is that you go through, you know, always remember that you're not alone, and also take as much time as you need. Don't rush things. Understand that things do take time. Work at your own pace to accomplish certain goals. Do not listen to all these Ken, Karen, and Brads out here, okay? They're not worthy of your attention. Don't focus on their energy because, truth be told, they don't have their lives together and they're still learning. They're still going through their own phases in life. So just focus on what you have to do. I'm going to share this insight about student loan debt, as I mentioned before, because this is just from personal experience. And again, it's one of those things that I wish I would have known now. I wish I would have known then what I do know now. To these young people out here living in my hometown in Kingston, I may not know all of you, but I will share this, because this is becoming a big thing nowadays. Just be wary that if you were to decide to go to school or go to college, to go to a four-year college, do not feel pressured. But if you do, please have an idea of what you think you might want to study, and also be aware of how much you take out, especially when it comes to student loans, because whatever you take out, when you get out of college, you're going to be required to pay that back. Student loan is becoming a huge thing. And then I want you to ask yourself, is going to a four-year school or furthering your education just to be buried in debt worth it? What you're going to be going to school for, ask yourself, is it going to be worth it in the end? So I want you to keep those things in mind. I myself personally, as it currently stands right now, I don't feel like I'm ready to go back to school. This is just my personal stance. I personally did 16 total years of going into school, doing projects, papers, presentations, and honestly, I don't think at this point I have it in me to further up, and I don't want to be buried in too much debt. You know, that's just my personal intake. Well, I will in the future, maybe or maybe not. But at least this is just my personal stance as far as whether or not I want to further my education. Right now, I'm keeping everything in my personal life consistent, managing my day-to-day responsibilities, and also I have a health condition that I need to keep intact with. So these are little barriers, but these are all things to still work on. But I haven't decided whether or not I want to go back to school. I think for the time being, I'm going to continue doing what I have to do right now and continuing to make videos like this, even if it is amateur style. I don't care at this point if it takes me 5, 10, 15, or 20 years. I believe that at some point I will get somewhere in life, even if I work pretty slow. Do not feel pressure to work fast. Work at your own pace. Don't listen to these Ken and Karens. Do not listen to everyone out here. And listen to your parents, take their suggestion, but try to put your own twist into it, because you're an adult now. You have the ability to make your own decisions and to inquire insight. Use your own judgment. Take their suggestions, but use your own judgment. Don't feel pressured. And yeah, that's pretty much it. That's pretty much what I wanted to share. So again, that's all the time that I have for you on this afternoon. I hope you guys were able to enjoy this video, and I hope that you took something from this. To those of you young people, especially those that are getting out of high school, I hope that you take something from me. I know I tend to ramble and go off place, but I try to get to the bottom of the message, and I try to relate to those that are struggling with the same conditions much like me, or that are having a hard time deciding in life. So again, I'm going to cut this video short, and just a side note, this is my yearbook. Tells you right here. So I got this yearbook in 2008, which is the year that I graduated, and I'm going to quickly bring up my senior photos. You might have already seen it, but I'm going to go ahead and bring it up briefly. Show you guys my senior pictures. This is my portrait. Can you see that? That's me. Nostalgia. So I figure I'd just share that with you all. You know, I know I've came a long way, and life doesn't stop there. I still have a lot to learn. So again, I'm glad you guys enjoy the video. Please be on the lookout for more of my future video content. And as always, I'll talk to you guys soon. Have a great day today.